From being a pizza cashier register to running an 8-figure company, we have a very special interview with my younger brother who is now running my old company, a company that has done 8 figures, and he's gonna break down his success and the transformation that he's had. This is gonna be good. All right, let's jump into it. So I have a very special guest, somebody that I've known a long time. Some would say longer than anybody else that I've known in my life. So this is, we have Jon Pena. Jon Pena, I want to go ahead and give you the honor of giving everybody a 30-foot overview of your background and who you are, and let's go ahead and kick it off.
A 30-foot overview. Okay, so I'll
30-foot overview.
I'll treat it like 30 years since I'll be 30 this year.
Okay.
So about 10 years ago, you actually introduced me to the entrepreneur space, and that was through network marketing, the YPR movement, and that kind of like was the spark that lit the fire. And throughout the last 10 years, we've built businesses together. You and I, we built businesses with Mike, who is my current business partner, and we've had a lot of success. I mean, the awards you see to the left and the right, those are accolades that represent $1 million with the product. And then I've been, grateful enough to build the team to where we've actually earned the $10 million award with ClickFunnels. We were named Inc. 5000, and the journey that I have had is a little bit different because I didn't just do one role and then kind of grow within that one role and within that one department. We had a small team, so what we had to do was wear many hats, and it required me to learn different skills so that I could have different understanding of what it was that was needed to have that department win, have that department flourish. So I started in customer service. I was in graphic design, web design, sales, marketing, leadership, management, and all the above. So today, right now, me and Mike Barron, what we run is a sales agency where we train sales representatives. We teach people how to do high ticket sales. And then at the end of it, at the end of the tunnel, there is a light, and that light is we get them positioned so that they could actually use that skill set in the real world and create a high income with it.
Love that. And yeah, we're definitely going to jump into that because I think for a lot of people, they have this dream of being the guy at the top. They want to be the CEO, the big boss, but they want to do it before they acquire the right skill sets and they actually skill stack. And that's something that you did do. You went out there and you worked through the different divisions and the different areas of a company. And then it only made sense that you rose to the top and ran the company because you knew how to do everything, right? So that's something that we definitely, we'll talk about today. And with that, Jon, let's talk about this. When you were growing up, right? And just for everybody to know, this is Jon, this is my brother. And dude, we've done a lot of different things together. I'll never forget, there was actually a day where you came out and did an internship when me and Mike were partners, and you worked with us, and then you're like, dude, I think I'm gonna leave school. And I'm like, I'm not telling mom, you tell her. And I guess where I wanna start this is when you were growing up, right? I don't necessarily remember exactly what you think you wanted to be, but what did you want to be when you were growing up? And what was that initial vision for yourself? Like, man, I'm going to go to high school and then what was that?
So growing up, I was always into artistry, whether that was drawing with a pencil or even going back to the days where the power would go out and I would want to color, right? Mm-hmm. So growing up, and I'm going to consider growing up like high school, I wanted to be either an artist or like an apparel designer. And shout out to Raul, but Raul had the idea of like, hey, look, I see your skills, I see your creativity. Let's start a clothing brand. So I started a clothing brand in high school, and it was called Nocturnal. And it was, it was successful for a little small town thing, right? I sold hundreds of shirts across, I would walk around and people I didn't even know were wearing the shirts that I had designed with Raul, right? So I was always into apparel though, and fashion for some reason. And I had a goal my senior year, which was never wear the same outfit twice. And I accomplished that goal. And I knew that going into my freshman and sophomore year, I was like collecting. Unfortunately, I didn't have a growth spurt in high school. I stayed around the same height, but fortunately from that, I was able to still wear the same shirt. So I kept everything crisp and nice. And that was basically like my core focus at the time. And then when I got to college, I went to San Francisco State University. So I majored in business because I couldn't enter the apparel design program as a freshman. So I finished my first year. And then my sophomore year, I applied to the apparel design program. And I got in, I got accepted, and I did a sewing class. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I'm more like the thinker, the creator. There's no way in hell I'm going to be sewing for not because of like the pay. That was obviously a definite reflection, right? To my part, I didn't do much research on, cool, what do, fashion designers get paid, right? Of course, you get the big bucks in fashion design for celebrities, but I wanted my own clothing brand. And that's kind of like where I saw the light at the end of the tunnel of like, hey, this is how I could be a multi-millionaire. There was brands growing up like Arisu, just that popped off and that had major success. And I wanted a piece of that. So I chose San Francisco State because that was like the hub of apparel design and fashion. And I knew this brand, which actually you introduced me to it, was Black Scale. They were founded and they originated there. So my goal was, cool, I'm going to be a fashion designer at Black Scale. That's what I wanted. I wanted to work up my ranks there. And that relates to the first job I ever had was in San Francisco on Haight Street. I was willing to do any job that was on that street because Black Scale, their flagship store, was on that street. And I got in, and that's kind of like what sparked it. But yeah, I wanted to be an apparel designer.
So, growing up, right? Obviously, we didn't necessarily want to. Sounds like you knew you wanted to go to school, and it was almost not even a choice. The family we got raised in. But point being is, you started off, you want to be a fashion designer, apparel designer. Just to put this in perspective with everybody, just to solidify this point. So Jon runs an 8-figure organization, the 332nd fastest growing company in America last year, according to Inc. 500. And with that being said, it's actually the original company. Just to kind of put this in perspective, we're going to talk about this journey, but the company that he came to work with as an intern 7-8 years ago, however long ago it was, he was an intern, and through his journey, through the process, he acquired the right skill sets, and now he is a founder. He's an owner of that company. That's one of the fastest growing companies in America. So, with that being said, when we were growing up, I remember that you were always really artistic and always really creative. And, if somebody looked at you, they probably wouldn't say you were charismatic or very extroverted. You were very to yourself. And there was a specific conversation where I called you one time, and I remember you're like, man, yeah, I'm just, when I'm done here, I'll probably make, I don't know, $60,000, $70,000. This is when you were still in college. And you eventually realize, like, dude, there's more to the world. And I just want to talk about that journey, because I think a lot of people that are maybe watching this, or maybe in your shoes, where they were going to school, trying to get good grades and maybe get a 60, 70K year job, but they maybe have this path that they don't even know is available to them. You don't have to be a certain type of person starting off. You could, be introverted. So with that being said, let's talk about your journey and the different roles that you learned to put yourself in that seat to be the CEO, to run an 8-figure organization. So out of college, what was the first skill set that you learned that you would say you acquired and you mastered?
So the first skill set that I acquired and mastered was graphic design. And this was in high school. I got one of the degrees that people would call a YouTube university degree. And I just studied hours and hours and countless trial and error, just messing around with Illustrator, which is where a lot of people actually make logos, make graphics. And then I went on to learn Photoshop. So the reason why I learned that was because, again, for the clothing brand, I wanted to build a brand. I wanted to have high-level graphics and high-level designs and creative design. So I began there. And that's what sparked the phone call, I believe, with you giving me an opportunity to actually become an intern and try this out, right? So I was, in the beginning, making logos and graphics for small businesses, right?
Yeah.
And from there, it grew to, all right, I know graphics. And then Mike was the one who was making the websites. He was making on Wix, which fine, it's a website. If you could say a funnel is a website, well, you make a website on Wix, it's still a website. So then I could do that. So then I learned how to make websites. And then we brought on another team member that had a higher skill set of web design, and it was WordPress. So I was like, well, I know graphic design, I know how to build websites that are drag and drop into WordPress, so I could get an additional level of building a website at a higher level. And then I was like, okay, so this guy knows WordPress, but he knows that at a higher level than me because he can do customization to WordPress. So I was like, all right, I need to learn HTML so that I could add customization to WordPress websites, right? Different optimizations to desktop, iPad, iPhone. Then I learned how to do HTML. And then from there, I was like, okay, I know graphics, I know how to build a website. I feel that managing projects, I am the best one in the room at doing that out of everyone that was on the fulfillment team. There was other graphic designers. We had about, I think, 4 web designers on payroll, right? Okay, I could get projects done faster and better and more efficient. So I took the step into managing the fulfillment team. So you, Mike, and the team sold everything, and it was my job to make sure all the projects got done in time, right? And then there it stemmed into there's this thing that's called the phone where people are actually making income off of that. And I stepped into sales, and I learned how to set appointments. I learned how to close deals. And from there, I was like, okay, I know how to sell. I know how to build websites. I know how to do graphics.
So time out though. So at this point, because the sales thing, that's another kind of journey. I think that it's just say this first chapter, right? Because Jon went from being at a university, doing graphic design, which he had as a skill set, and he had a curiosity and passion, and then he kept learning. And then, next thing you know, he learned how to do web development. And, when he was doing web development and graphics, and that led to branding, he eventually got to work with people like Patrick McDavid, Conor McGregor. We did stuff with Solar City. We did stuff with a $1 billion company called Roofing Professionals. Like, this is his first, and I would say that a lot of people that have been doing graphic design for a decade, some of them haven't even worked with Fortune 500 companies or people at that caliber, right? So, when you started off though, and I just want to make this point, you didn't necessarily know that you were going to eventually be leading. Dude, we had guys that would work under you that had a degree. They were full grown men. I don't know how old you were then, but you were like 20 years old. And, we have Henry, who was 37 and had, been a developer for 10 years. Like, hey, Jon, can I go get take a lunch early? And, whatnot. So the thing that I see when you say that is you saw the next opportunity in the company, and then you saw the next area that you were like, let me take responsibility and kind of take ownership of that. And by doing that, you rose to the top out of like, seeing those opportunities and taking that responsibility, right? So my question is, for a lot of people out there, what I see is the opposite, right? So if you had somebody that was just like you and they were an intern in the company, and they wanted to eventually lead a team and rise through the ranks, what would your piece of advice be to them?
So you have someone who they have made a decision that they want to rise up through the ranks.
Yep, in a company, any company.
So my guidance, my coaching, I guess my feedback even that I would give is you have to figure out where you can add value to the company that increases revenue. That's, like if you're going to step into the office of a CEO or a high level executive, they want to know how you can solve problems that exist. And they also want to know how can you solve problems before they become a problem as well. So something that even I did. So look, we started Limelight Media, and then 2 years later, it's me, you, Mike, Prince, Gage, and this is like the core group, right? But there was a moment in that journey where 2.5 years in, you decide, hey, it's time for a transition. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to go with Nick. I'm going to go with my brother. I'm going to go with my family, right? And you take lead on this whole new venture by yourself. And we had to basically start over, but we didn't have to, in a sense, because we had experience, right? So with that, I needed to I needed to understand myself as my own individual entrepreneur. It's a whole different story, but I ended up coming back to Limelight Media. Okay, so me and you, we decided, hey, I felt subconsciously and maybe even on a conscious level, I was holding you back, you were holding me back. Nothing wrong with that, right? And then at the same time, like, it was like time, right? So I came back to Mike and I was like, all right, look, I have all this experience. Mike, let me rock and roll. Let me work with your team. So I basically had to start over, right? This is like COVID. And Mike said, hey, look, I already have an organization. It's doing about $250,000 a month, which is good for a company, right? And I can't just unmock everything that I've built. So I have a spot for you, but it's not an executive, it's not a sales manager, it's not a director, it's not even a team lead. You can be a closer. So I had to start from a closer and work my way up. Now I knew what my goal was, so that's why I asked the question. I was like, has this person made a decision? Because it's important that they have made a decision. So I made a decision. Look, I'm gonna move to the top of the company. So as a closer, what I did was, first, I became the best at that job than anyone. So whatever position that you are doing, whether it's intern, whether it's full-time, whether it's customer service, whether it's sales, whether it's fulfillment, marketing, whatever the job is that you are currently in, that you have achieved or that you have accepted and taken responsibility for, become the best at that job possible, right? And then what you need to do is find ways to solve problems for existing scenarios and then scenarios that are in the future that could come up. And then also, it doesn't just have to be solving problems, but it could also just be improving the area. For example, okay, I'm a closer, and it's like, all right, I know we need to sharpen up on the sales process. I know we need to sharpen up in the administrative side with lead tracking. But what I see that doesn't exist that could be brought into the company is, hey, we don't have financing, we don't have funding. So I went and I found a financing company to add to the business, and that helped triple the revenue within 90 days. So you have to be able to solve problems, and you have to be able to find holes that are in the future to never have them become a holes, and then also find ways to help increase revenue and increase production. Because if you walk up to any CEO, any business owner, and show, not just tell them, telling someone is totally different than showing, but showing someone ways that could be implemented now in present time on how to increase revenue, I mean, who's going to say no to that?
And, on that point, so many people will go into, an organization and they have this job description, right? And what I heard from that is, there's this job description that you're given, you're going to show up at this time, you're going to do A, B, and C. If you guys want to rise to the top of a company, if you only follow that job description, you're in the exact opposite direction of you rising and actually getting promoted as, manager, director, CEO, right? You had to solve problems outside of your job description and go above and beyond to actually, basically add cash flow, add revenue to the company. And that's something that, somebody watching this right now, even if you're not in sales, you could be in support, fulfillment, whatever it is, you can add cash flow to a company and find areas to increase efficiency and add revenue, right? So with that being said, when you went and actually, found those opportunities, you took responsibility and you helped essentially, triple a business. What that tells to me is that if somebody has the right information, knowledge, and skill sets, you don't necessarily need tons of cash flow. You could, go out there and work with an existing company, improve it, and even get a stake in it, right? So, for somebody that, is watching this right now, if you had to kind of give them, the 1, 2, 3 roadmap of the skills they should stack, what would those skill sets be?
Well, I think it begins a step behind a little bit, and like, you have to decide, are you an entrepreneur or are you an intrapreneur? So the difference with that is, are you the person that's going to start, take lead, and take initiative of creating businesses, or are you more so the person that can go into a business and help them scale and grow into an existing business? And I think for you, I mean, I definitely say you're more the entrepreneur side, right? Of course, you could do both. You could do entrepreneur and entrepreneur, and I think at this point in my career, I could do both as well. But my superpower right now would be entrepreneur. I can go into any business, find the holes, and give the solutions, and then scale, right? So for a business to succeed and grow, it's relative to the position. So the question was, what are like the 1, 2, 3 steps?
Well, my question was this. So let's just assume someone decides, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, or I'm going to go in and work with an existing business, help improvement, right? What are the skill sets that you would have them stack to do that as quickly as possible? So, if they had to go ahead and learn sales, communication, marketing, graphic design, like should they learn how to, do Excel spreadsheets, right? What would be those skills that you would be like, dude, if you could stack these skills and get this down, you have a pretty good shot at improving, a business and actually earning a seat at the table by being an entrepreneur, right?
So I would, you gotta look, if you want the biggest ROI in return as far as being paid, you're gonna need to gravitate either towards sales or marketing. It's going to be one of those, right? Because if you're the number one customer service, the reality is it's like you're the number one person who, and no disrespect to anyone in this role, but like I could be the best flipper of hamburgers at McDonald's. That won't make me a millionaire, right? Or you could be the best person to squirt ketchup on the patties, right? Or the best order taker at the Wendy's drive-thru, right? So with that, you have to go towards the higher paying skill set roles. And that's why I continue to excel, because I saw, wow, well, this guy's a web designer, but here he is 30, 40 years old, still getting this much pay. This guy is a graphic designer, still getting this much pay. This guy is a videographer getting this much pay. And then over across the room, I see the sales guys, sales ladies making the most amount of capital. I see the marketing team who has performance-based metrics for how many leads they bring in and how much liquidation they can bring in through the funnel, making the most amount of money. So it's sales or marketing. Now, really, I believe if anyone has the willingness to learn, they can master either of them, right? When I was younger, I didn't write down on my notepad, I want to be the number one sales rep in the world. I didn't write down, I want to be the number one marketer in the world, right? But I knew where the value was as far as like the roles and positions, and sales is king and marketing is king. So if you're willing to...
Queen. Marketing is queen.
Marketing is queen, right? So if you're willing to get out of the comfort zone, for me, I had to get out of the comfort zone because I'm more like introverted. It was sales, right? So like the journey of the entrepreneur is actually quite simple, right? First step of the journey is you have to skill up. You have to get skills that bring value to the marketplace. So you want high paying skills. A high paying skill is closing deals. Another high paying skill is being able to bring in leads, because some of the biggest struggles that businesses deal with is revenue and lead flow, right? I think product and fulfillment is something that you could have two business owners, one with the best product in the world, but no one knows about it. And then another business owner who has an average product, but everyone knows about it. They're going to bring in more revenue, right? They're going to be by more people. So with skilling up, you have to have the high value skills in the marketplace. After you skill up, then you start up. This is where you're actually beginning to create a business, or you're helping someone create a business, or you're helping a team create a business. And then from starting up, you're scaling up, where you're going from 6 figures to a million to 10 million, 10 million to a billion. You're scaling up. And then the last step is you're selling up. So you have all the success, and now you are selling your systems and processes to other people so that they can duplicate what you have learned. So what is the first step is learn sales or learn marketing, right? Mm-hmm. Second step, be the best at it, right? Get obsessed with whatever you choose and commit to whatever you choose. I didn't test out sales for 2 days. I didn't test out sales for a week. I didn't test it out for a month. I did it for years and I mastered it. And that's how I made a lot of money with it. Even as a sales rep, I've made multiple six figures. Just as a sales rep, getting paid off of commission alone, multiple six figures.
Got it. And, with that, for anybody watching, sales, marketing, those are things that are revenue generating. And inside of there, you have different roles, inside of sales that you can learn. You have different roles inside of marketing. But when you couple those together, I feel like you do have, the ability to walk up to any business and say, hey, if I could bring in more sales and I can let more people know about your business and bring in cash flow, they're going to want to listen to you, assuming that you could prove that or you have a proven track record, right? And the thing that I would say on top of that would be the thing after somebody does sales and marketing is operations. If you could do sales, marketing, and then operate people that do sales and marketing, now you have the ability to build any business, within as little as, 48 hours, 72 hours. If you could, really master all those skill sets. So with that being said, let's talk about and move to a different subject. Well, what's the difference between somebody that is, let's go to business. So what's the difference between somebody that's a six-figure, solopreneur, maybe they have some clients, they're getting referrals, and a seven-figure business owner? What's the main difference?
Got it. So good question. I got this from Alex Hermosi. 90% of businesses never hit $1 million. 9% of businesses hit $1 million, and less than 1% are able to achieve more than 8 figures. So it's separated into two sides. One side is the entrepreneur, and the other side is the opportunity for the entrepreneur, right? So if you think about our journey one, hey, let's go and do network marketing. Let's get everyone hyped about energy drinks. Our work ethic was always 10 out of 10, right? We never fell short in that category. Our characteristics as human beings never fell short. We were disciplined. We were hardworking. We knew how to surround ourselves around the right people, right? So network marketing had success, but we didn't become multimillionaires. Next step is like, hey, let's build websites. And that was something where we had a percentage of success that we have today. And then the next step is like, all right, social media. And then the next step is, cool, let's learn how to day trade. And then we jumped into education, right? So the entrepreneur is broken up, I believe, into like 3 categories. So it's skills, characteristics, and beliefs, right? Now, skills, very simple. Do you know how to bring in $1 million? Do you know how to bring in 1 million leads? Do you know how to create systems and operations that allow a business to scale, right? Characteristics are you the first one in the office? Are you the last one to leave? Are you doing all the right things in business and outside of business, right? It's kind of like that separation of like soft skills and hard skills. And then beliefs. You have to believe. So the difference between a 6-figure and an 8-figure is going to be the skills, and aside that is going to be the beliefs, right? So enter a marriage and enter it with 5% belief that the marriage is going to succeed. You're going to probably fall in the divorce category, right? Mm-hmm. Enter a marriage with 100% belief that this is my person, this is the person that I should be with, this is the person that I'm going to understand there's highs and there's lows, but we're going to have success in the long run. That's 100% belief. You have to enter business with that same belief system. So in the beliefs, there's known beliefs. Known beliefs are examples of, I can't do it because of X. And you could replace X with whatever you want. I can't do it because I'm in school. I can't do it because no one ever supported me. I can't do it because my parents won't let me. I can't do it because I'm going to fail, So those are known beliefs where they have conceptual understanding of what is in front of them, what barrier is stopping them. And then there is the unknown unknowns. So an example of that would be, wow, you learn something and it's like, I didn't know that was possible, right? So like you're the number one realtor in America and you teach people how, or you're making money because you make money in real estate. And then you learn, did you know that you can teach people your systems and also make money through the education platform? Wow, I did not know that. So you take a 6-figure realtor into a 7-figure business owner, right? So how do you get someone's beliefs raised? Well, you have to raise their awareness. And raising their awareness is often really just giving them case studies and showing them what's possible. And that's why it's really important to like have those mentors, right? So it's entrepreneur and then it's the vehicle, the opportunity, right? Let's say me, you take all my success, you take the person that I am, and you plug me into a manager at McDonald's. I'm gonna be the best manager at McDonald's that ever exists. You take me and you put me in as a sales manager for Toyota cars. I'm gonna make sure our team sells more cars than anyone in the world, right? You kind of think of it with like, what level entrepreneur are you? And then what level opportunity are you in? What level of is that vehicle that you are riding in, right? So ideally, you want to be an 8-figure entrepreneur, you better be a level 10 entrepreneur with a level 10 opportunity. Oftentimes, you have a level 10 entrepreneur and a level 1 opportunity, right? And that's kind of what's holding that. Or you have someone who's in a phenomenal opportunity, but they're lazy, they don't have work ethic, they're not going to be successful, right? So you want to think about leverage. If you have all the skills, what are you putting in and what are you getting out? For us, it took time, but we learned, hey, we know how to do the most productive, high income producing activities throughout the day so that we maximize our skills and maximize our income, right? So that's why we're in the information space, or that's why I chose the information space, because I can make a program one time and sell it 1,000,000 times for multiple millions of dollars.
Got it. And that makes sense. And just to kind of break this down, so you have the entrepreneur, which is made up of skill sets. The entrepreneur is made up of characteristics. The entrepreneur is made up of having the right belief systems. And when you put that entrepreneur in the right opportunity, dude, they can excel and actually build a 7-figure business. And your belief is, the way you're saying this is, hey, the 6-figure entrepreneur skill sets, maybe he has them, then it's going to be the beliefs that holds him back to get to 7 figures. Okay.
It could be belief, and it could also be the vehicle, the opportunity,
okay,
right? So like I believe in 2015, cool, maybe there were some skills that we could sharpen up on. For me, I definitely needed to learn how to do sales, right? But you knew how to do sales.
Yeah.
Coming from the office, you knew how to do sales. If we had the data that we have now and we rewind and just gave you millions would have been printed, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Got it. No, that makes sense. And there's actually a guy that I met this last week, and 3.5 years ago, he was doing DoorDash minimum, basically, a driver, right? Before that, he was, in his dorm room selling drugs. And now today he runs, a company that does $10 million. And, the fact is dude, this guy does have some skill sets, but he jumped into the right opportunity, the right vehicle, and he just started to absolutely print, right? And with that being said, I definitely do see that. There's another guy that, I know that dude is on paper and a genius and has a really high IQ, and, he has skill sets. Maybe there's some characteristics, but dude, he's not printing millions. He's still selling websites and, trying to do someone's social media accounts, and it's just, he doesn't have the right leverage. Not to say that you can't do that exactly. Like what I would say is like there, whatever vehicle you're in, sometimes it's the pricing model that you're using as well that's holding you back. Like for example, with that person there, if they were to help people with social media and get leads. And instead of charging $1,000 or $2,000 a month, they started operating off of a revenue share or profit share agreement. They could have one client help them do a few hundred G's and make 10, 20, 30, 40 grand from that one deal, and then do that 3 times, right? So either way though, that's the vehicle he's in is there, but he has it in the wrong gear, I guess is what I'm saying. He's not, With that being said, for somebody to go ahead and, let's just say, assuming they have the beliefs and, they believe, dude, they believe there's Jesus and then there's them, dude. They believe it's possible, right? And they're stuck at doing 200, 300K a month. Actually, no, let's say that they're stuck at 7 figures, right? They're trying to get to 8 figures. What are the biggest mistakes that they're probably making and they don't even realize they're making it?
Okay, are we coming from a business owner?
Yep, business owner. Like, this guy believes he's doing 7 figures. He's making mistakes in his business, or maybe there's areas that, he's probably going to run into getting to 8 figures. What does that look like?
Yeah, so, all right, you're a business owner, you're making 7 figures. These are some of the most important categories that I believe you need to master to scale from 7 figures to 8 figures, right? And we're gonna begin with number 1, which is vision. Okay, so number 1, I would ask that person is, cool, you have, what is the purpose of your business and why are you doing it? Okay, so if you have 10 people on your team or 100 people on your team, I go and I interview all of them. Will they share that same vision as you? So everyone, all the arrows need to be pointed in the right direction. They have to be. Imagine tug of war. You have one guy who's pulling the opposite way. He's going to cause the team to lose, even if 10 people are pulling one way, right? So everyone has to have a similar vision. Well, how do you have everyone on a similar vision? You make your vision known to your people, right? Which leads to the second subject, which is people. Okay, can you win a Super Bowl with the best coach? Yes. Can you win a Super Bowl with the best offensive, coach, with the best defensive coach, with the best water boy? Yes. But can you win a Super Bowl with shitty football players, even though you have the best coaches? No. You need the best players on the field, right? You need to see and identify who are the people on your team. And often it's, do you have the right person in the wrong seat? Or do you have the wrong seat for the right person? Worst case scenario, you have the wrong person in the wrong seat. Best case scenario, you have the right person in the right seat, right? So you have an example of right person, wrong seat could be, you got little Timmy who is scared, nervous, he hears a thunderstorm and he shrivels at night, right? But he's really smart in his IQ and he's good at problem solving, but you have him banging the phone every day to set appointments, where at night he's studying how to economize, your treasury system, or he's studying how to create a better script or how to do X, Y, and Z, right? You have a person who's dedicated to your business, who wants to win, who wants to succeed, but they don't want to learn sales, right? So you got the right in the wrong seat. So you have to have the right people in the right seat. And when it comes to people, I got this from Simon Sinek, but like you have like a graph. You want to think of like a graph, and on one side of the graph, it's measuring performance. And then on the other side of the graph, it's measuring trust. It's really easy to measure performance. What are their stats? What are their numbers? Are they up stat, down stat? Are they winning? Are they losing in the role? But how do you measure trust, right? So if you look at this graph, in the bottom corner, the part of people that you don't want is people you have low performances and you have low trust with, right? You have your performance and your trust. At the top of this side, you have high performance, but you have low trust. Oftentimes, this is the asshole on your team. This is the person who is toxic. The guy who closes the most deals, but is just mean to everyone, right? You don't want that person. You want someone who you have high performance and you have high trust with. That's the most ideal scene. But let's be realistic. Those are going to be your diamonds. Those are, out of interviewing 1,000 people, they are that one. They're rare, right? But I would rather have a medium performance person with high trust than a high performance person and low trust, because more willingness and they are more bought into the vision. At one point, I was the low medium performance person, but I had high trust and I had high belief in where the business was going, right? So people is huge. So you have your vision. Everyone needs to know the vision. I go around, I interview everyone. Hey, where will the company be in 10 years? They should have a similar answer. And it comes from the top down. It has to be pushed down. So your directors, your executives have to push that vision down, right? Ideally, it comes from the CEO, comes from the founder. Okay, and next, again, people. So vision, people is statistics. Any person you have on your team has to have a statistic. If they don't have a statistic, you're not measuring whether they're winning or losing in the role. To know whether one is succeeding or not succeeding, it's based off of statistics. How do you know if someone wins a football game? One person scores more. That's a statistic. How does someone win a wrestling match? They score more points, right? How do you know if a business is succeeding? They generate revenue and they generate profit, right? So vision, people, now we have statistics. Next is policy. If you want to scale from 7 to 8 figures, you have to have policy. Policy is law. Policy is what keeps the house in order, whether you have one team member or 100 team members, right? What are the rules and what is the name of the game? So when you have policy, people have direction. To create policy, that's a different conversation, but that is what, if I hire an appointment setter on my team, they know everything, all the policy is laid out for them to succeed in the role. If I hire a clerk, all the policy and direction is laid out for them to succeed in the role. It doesn't require me or Mike to teach them how to succeed in the role because we have policy, right? Hey, what is the commission split on deals? There's policy for that. What is the discounts we can give to people? There's policy for that. How many times should a videographer post on social media? We have policy for that. So we have policy. Next is solutions. So we have vision, people, statistics, policy. Now we need solutions. This is going to come more so from your leaders. It should come from your directors, right? If you have a junior who's bringing solutions, keep an eye and pour into that person because more than likely they will be a leader in the future, right? But solutions is the ability to problem solve and to also solve the problems before they exist. Last step is you need execution. You can have the best policy in the world. You could spend 30 hours creating statistics. You could spend 100 hours interviewing people, 50 hours creating the vision. But if you don't execute on your business plan, you will go nowhere. You have to execute. So those would be like the 6 components that I would say would take someone from 6 to 7, 7 to 8 figures.
That was really good. For anybody watching this right now, you got to rewatch that part back because that is the roadmap, the guideline, and the path is paved with that. If you could put those things in your business, right? Well, let's go ahead and we're going to jump to our last subject here, and then we're going to go ahead and probably wrap this thing up. So you have, the journey that you took, you skill stacked, and, you have, the things that, you did to get to, 8 figures and following that path, right? I want to go ahead and take a step back, and let's just say that you had Jon, at 18 years old coming out of college, and you had to kind of, you had the ability to see him and hand him, a 1-page note of exactly what to do action wise, not necessarily like buy aside from like buy crypto and stuff, but it's like a roadmap of like, dude, you could apply this and, go down this path and this will help you win, right? What would that note look like to your 18-year-old self?
My 18-year-old self, I would say there's
You're slipping him a battle. Actually, you're slipping him the note that's a battle plan to get to the ideal scene, and it's action based. Do this and that.
Yeah. So number one, I would tell my 18-year-old self to make decisions faster. And the reason I say that is because if I would have made more decisions at a faster pace, all my wins theoretically would have came faster, right? A lot of people spend too much time overthinking or contemplating and go more logical based than emotional based when it comes to business, because it's time is something where if you're a billionaire, you can't buy time back. I see so many people that have come through our program that made fast decisions, that learned and mastered the training that we have, where it took me 9 years to buy a Lambo, but yet one of our students was able to do it in 2 years. Why? Because you made a decision faster at a sooner age and you got access to the right information, right? So the second thing would be is get access to the right information. Okay. So number three would be operate off of that information. Having the data is one thing. Operating off of it is another. I could go to ChatGPT right now and simply type in the words how to make $1 million. And everyone in the world could do that right now, but yet why does only 3% of the world actually have that financial success, right? It's action that holds people back. And then 4 would be master the art of sales, because it is a high income skill set where no matter what condition the world is in, whether it's in a recession or flourishing or not, there's one thing that a business will always see value in, and it is producing revenue. Name a business that does not see value in more revenue. Does not exist, right? So that skill can be translated to any different industry, because every single business that exists has to sell in order to survive. Fifth thing would be surround yourself with people that carry the same vision as you, because even though growing up wrestling was like in one way, shape, or form a one-man sport, you're on the mat by yourself, it was the team that was losing weight together. It was the team that was practicing for 3 hours. It was the team that woke up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. Going in 2015, me and you, we woke up in the morning, we hit the gym, we showered at the gym because we didn't have nowhere else to live and we had to shower there. And then we went to the office and would grind from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. But we did that together. If I was by myself, it would have been more difficult, right? In a group setting, the difficult things become that much easier. So surround yourself with the right people. The other thing is, understand you will not have a perfect journey. It's not going to be a fairy tale journey. You're not going to wake up, have a couple butterflies float around your head with a unicorn in the backyard and a rainbow shining every single day. You will face challenges and you will have to overcome those challenges. But every time you overcome a challenge, every time you find a solution or you experience a level of pressure, the next time it becomes that much easier, right? And knowing that gives the sense of mind of you have accepted what's to come in the future and you are willing to go down that path to become the greatest. When in high school, it was, hey, you wanted to become a state champion, you knew I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked. I'm going to have to lift harder than I've ever lifted. I'm going to have to drill harder than I've ever drilled. I'm going to have to out practice, out drill, outsmart, out study every single person that's in the room, that's in the weight class, in order for me to become a state champion. You knew that, right? I knew leaving school, I needed to roll up my sleeves, but I definitely had a lot of optimism, and that's something that If you name a characteristic that every single billionaire has, it's optimism. Elon Musk had optimism when his company Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. So you have to have optimism. So those would be the main things that I would write to my 18-year-old self.
And then on that note, obviously it's, there's one thing you said, it's not necessarily going to be a fairy tale. There's things that you could have done to, speed up the journey, right? But when was a moment where you're like, man, this is where we're at right now? We're in this spot and you're like, dude, it looked dim. From an outside perspective, you're like, dude, I don't even know how we're going to, make it out of this spot. What was a time that pops up in your mind?
A struggle?
Yeah, a struggle.
Oh my gosh. Well, obviously the beginning was a struggle, which I knew walking in. And then there was that moment where we moved to LA and money just, I literally thought we had a printing machine in our living room because we were printing pretty heavily, right? Nowhere it was all shut down, right? We lost a couple partnerships. The industry had rules that were changed and it kind of crumbled everything, right? But for me, I definitely had moments where it was like, man, what am I going to do and how will I ever get past this? And that's where I connected myself with the people that I was on the grind with, and I knew, okay, look, it's not game over yet. It's not game over because I know even though we're in the low of the lows, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and Nick will still be there. Prince will still be there. The team will be there, right? The core. And that gave me a sense of peace and something to look forward to. And that's again why I say, like, you need to find people that are like on the grind. The real ones when times get difficult and when the business is not quote unquote on the high of the high, you'll know and learn who the real ones are, because the fake ones will leave when it's not most optimistic in their perspective, right? Or it's not most beneficial in their perspective. So I knew by having the right people by my side that I would come out okay. And I sometimes had to go to like the basics of like survival, and I would ask myself in these difficult times, the world is crashing down, money's not existent. We don't really know what the next day holds, but I would ask myself, do I have the basic necessities in life? Is there a roof over my head? Yes. Is there food on the table? Yes. Can I drink water? Yes. Am I healthy? Yes. Am I alive? Yes. I'll be okay. There's a line that I go by, and it's this too shall pass. So you're in the highest of the high, you're winning. Well, let's be real, this too shall pass, right? You're in the lowest of the low, this too shall pass, right? And that has carried with me, so that I've also learned whatever strategy you're doing now in your business, it will not last eternity. So you have to always be ready and have the next system, the next offer, the next business plan in the chamber, loaded, ready to go for whenever that day comes. And when you strike oil, milk it. Milk it as hard as you can. If you're running ads right now and your cost per lead is $1, this too shall pass. If you're running ads right now and your cost per lead is $25, which is high, this too shall pass. If you're broke, you have nothing to eat, you don't know how you're going to pay rent, this too shall pass. If you are the number one marketer in the world, this too shall pass. Now, of course, on the high side, you want to outcreate it, right? You want to outcreate it to where it's like that. You want to extend and prolong the moment of success, right? Tom Brady, 20 years plus in the NFL, this too shall pass. His career is now over. 7 Super Bowls, right? He had to accept that, so I have to accept that I'm in my 20s, this too shall pass. I'm in my 30s, this too shall pass. My son is 5 months old, this too shall pass. Soon he'll be 5, soon he'll be 10, soon he'll be 50. So I need to make the most out of every moment, and I need to make sure I'm prepared for what's on the other side of the horizon.
I think that that's a really good point to maybe end this off, and really big, lesson that anybody can take from is, you're going to go through these different seasons and phases in your life that shall pass. And it's important that when it does pass, you go and actually do what it takes to make the next season greater than the last. And out create whatever you did that was a highlight, right? And there's people that do that, right? There was actually a video that was talking about Shaq and how he makes more money now than when he was a basketball player. A lot of people that are professional athletes, they have that moment of fame and they win the rings, and then that time passes, they don't create the next version of themselves. So I think that's an amazing point to leave off here. Jon, appreciate the time. And we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. You guys can go ahead and find Jon's socials down below. And that's going to be the podcast.
All right.